Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina wa Mawlana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa azwajihi wa zurriyatihi wa itratihi ajma'in. We are looking at Imam Ghazali's discussion of the nature or the essence of reason and its types. And last time we looked at his point that one of the reasons, or one of the main reasons people have different opposing views about the essence of and the nature of reason, is that they ignore the fact that reason, or in Arabic al-aql, is a word, and every word, as we know, has meaning in two senses. So every word has meaning. Al-aql, for example, has meaning in the sense of its conceptual meaning, and a logician also call it connotation or connotative meaning, or just meaning. In Arabic we call it ma'na. And then meaning in the sense of reference. What in Arabic we call ma sadaq, or just masduqul mana. So reference of that meaning. And generally speaking, meaning of a word determines its reference. So for example, if a word has more than one meaning, depending on which meaning we are intending or in the context, will determine its reference. So for example, in English, by a bank we can mean a bank of a river, or we can mean a bank as in the financial institution. So depending on the meaning of bank will determine the reference, the right reference. Similarly, in Arabic language, al-ain, for example, there's a lot of meanings. Mean an eye, can mean a spy, can mean a fountain, and it has other meanings as well. And depending on which meaning we are using, so reference 1, reference 2, reference 3, depending on meaning 1, meaning 2, and meaning 3. So Imam Ghazali is saying that al-aql, or reason, is one of those words which has more than one meaning. And then it follows from that depending on the meaning we are intending, the reference would change as well. And one of the reasons people are unable to resolve their issues about the nature of reason, the essence of reason, or the nature of reason, is that they haven't paid enough attention to the fact that reason is used, or al-aql is used in different senses. Another word for meaning in conceptual sense. And since they haven't differentiated between different senses, they aren't agreed on in what sense they are talking about reason, and consequently they disagree about its external reference as well. So that's one of the main lessons of our last session. The Imam Al-Ghazali said there are more than one senses of the word reason, or al-aql, and depending and corresponding to each sense. That's the first point. The second point is corresponding to each sense we will, or is determined, the referential meaning of the word reason. And the third point is that in order to resolve our issues about what reason is, and that's one of the things you learn in logic, the first thing you learn in logic is and that's a job of the definitions. Definitions are important because they resolve the. So what definition does is determine the exact thing we are talking about, or the issue we are talking about. Because without doing that, your disagreement might be a verbal disagreement, and you might think that it is an actual disagreement, because you might be talking about two different things. So even though what you're saying is different from what the other person is saying, there's no necessary disagreement, since you're talking about two different matters. And it also then determines what are our real differences, because you can set aside the verbal differences because there are no differences really, and you can focus on your real differences or disagreements, and you can try to resolve that, try to see what's the causes of the reasons, and if somebody else has a better idea than yours, then you can accept that, or otherwise they can accept that, or in some matters, you have to agree to disagree, as they say. So that's what we did in the last session. One more thing, or maybe we'll talk about it a bit later. So let's move to the text. So Bayano, we've done that last time, but we did that last time, but we're just going to over it again. So in case there's something new which pops up in my mind. بيان حقيقة العقل وأقسامه. اعلم أن الناس اختلفوا في حد العقل وحقيقته، وذهل الأكثرون عن كون هذا الاسم مطلقا على معان مختلفة. So one of the reason people they ignore the fact that the word reason is used for various meanings. And as I said last time, Imam Ghazali discusses here 4 meanings, but I don't think that those meanings are exhaustive. But there are 4 types or 4, so it's sort of a. And the other thing is what Imam Ghazali is doing here is based on human knowledge, and with increase in human knowledge you can always come up with new things. So none of this is actually based on revelation or anything, unless when he actually describe the specific Islamic sense of rationality. So that would be based on Quran and Sunnah, and obviously his human knowledge also is backed by his general understanding of, as Islamic scholar, of Quran and Sunnah. So that's but human knowledge itself is that the human knowledge, despite his genius, he's a child of his own time as well. So we should always differentiate when we talk about Islamic scholars. Their knowledge, which emanates from their understanding of the nusus of Kitab and Sunnah, and then knowledge which is based on their human faculties, their reason, their environment, their historical situation, and all that. And that is always changing, as we say. So their authority in these 2 matters is not the same, because their Islamic knowledge is based on timeless. Their understanding is not timeless, but it's based on something which is timeless. But on the other hand, their mere human knowledge not only is not, their understanding is obviously not timeless, but that knowledge itself is not timeless, or that type itself is not timeless. So that is very important, because some people, a lot of people actually seem to think that what Imam Ghazali or Imam Ibn Taymiyyah or others said about anything is the last, and then they defend them, even though if you look at it, that might be something which actually came from Aristotle or Plato or somebody else, from Syriac, some Stoic philosopher, or some pre-Islamic Arab tradition, or whatever. So they are actually defending Aristotle's claims and Plato's claim as if they are some sort of revelation, and then they blame others who don't disagree with them as if they are deviating from something timeless. So that's a huge problem, and Imam Ghazali himself has discussed that problem in very sophisticated. Anyway, this was a bit of digression. So Fasara Zalika Sabis. So there, one of the reason people disagree about reason is essence is that it has different meaning, and so that might be just verbal disagreement. والحق الكاشف للغطاء فيه غطاء فيه أن العقل اسم يطلق بالاشتراك. So it's a common name. It's a word which is used for different meaning, more than one meaning. And Imam Ghazali says there are 4 meanings, but as I said, this shouldn't be taken as exhaustive. There might be more than 4 meanings. But Imam Ghazali is saying what he's saying based on his knowledge at the time, or human knowledge at the time. كما يطلق اسم العين مثلا على معان عدة وما يجرى هذا المجرى فلا ينبغي أن يطلب لجميع أقسامه حد واحد. So we can't define all these different meanings with one definition, because for each sense we need a definition, separate definition. So that's what we did last time. That's what we did last time, and a bit of further explanation. I think I'll stop here, and probably we should start with his first definition, that is فالأول الوصف الذي يفارق الإنسان به أو يفارق الإنسان به سائر البهائم. So first meaning, or first sense of word reason or al-aql is a characteristic, al-wasf, that characteristic which differentiates human from animals. So it's a faculty or a power which we have in humans, which we don't have in other animals. So it's a faculty. So inshallah we will look at this definition next time. Thank you. Barakallahu feekum.